Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 13 of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Elyachar, the chief content producer and writer of jakestake.com. It is episode 13, and I'm very grateful to have one of my favorite house guests from Big Brother 21 here. He has earned one HOH and one veto and made it all the way to the Final Four. Was nominated for America's Favorite House Guest on his season, so please welcome the fabulous Cliff Hogg. How are you, Cliff?
Hey, howdy, Jacob. How are you? And let me add to that: one HOH and one veto, one banishment win, and one comeback win. So
I totally forgot. I apologize, but we'll get into those wins later.
Yeah. Alrighty.
So, Cliff, Cliff, when did you become a fan of Big Brother, and how did that passion evolve into desire to audition for the show?
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I've been a reality TV fan forever. I was excited when I heard Mark Burnett was doing Survivor, and I was there for episode 1 of that show. And then the same year, just a little bit later that summer, Big Brother, the first season launched. And I started watching that and actually watched most of that first season of Big Brother. But unfortunately, I had a brother that was killed by a drunk driver in September. And so I missed the last bit of the first season of Big Brother, and life got in the way, and I really didn't get back to Big Brother until season 8. And at that point, I watched it, and that was the season with Evil Dick, and I just fell in love with the show. The strategies, the plotting, just everything that goes on to try to win that show just captured my imagination. And so I've been a huge fan ever since season 8. I've got kids that started watching, season 14 or 15, and my wife as well. And so it turned into a bit of a family event that we would watch that show and sit around the dinner table talking about the episodes. My wife and I have watched the live feeds for the last few years also. And so I was absolutely a huge fan, but I'd never... And I'm one of those that always, after every episode, would play it over in my mind and think, oh, I would have done this, I would have done that, and figuring out how I would have done the thing differently. But I never actually had sent in a videotape to compete in the show, and just happened last February to hear there was an open casting call here in Houston. Haley Broker from season 20 had posted something on Twitter about it. And so I went down with my wife just as a joke, saying, oh, let's go watch everyone try out just to see how many people there are and all that. And I got there about 10 minutes before the line shut down. I was the last person in line, and said, you know what, I'm already in line. Why not call it an adventure just to try out? And so I went in there with no expectations, tried out, and the next thing you know, here I am.
Awesome. So since season 8, so you've seen a plethora of house guests. So who are your favorite house guests of all time, and why?
Yeah, I'm an engineer by trade, and I've always liked to think that I'm a very analytical person, and I tend to gravitate to those type of players. Ian Terry, I enjoyed his season and watching him play just because I felt like he took a new approach and was able to make it work, being kind of the quirky, nerdy guy that no one gave any credit to, and he won the whole thing. Vanessa, I'm a huge fan of hers because I thought she was very analytical. There were times where she got a little upset when things didn't go her way, but all in all, she played I think, a very strategic game. It's easy to say Derek and Dan, obviously they're superstars in terms of the way they played as well, but I've always gravitated to the folks who maybe aren't necessarily competition beasts, but have a social game and a strategic game that lets them advance a long way into the process. And I tried to model my game to a large degree off of some of those people.
Though you picked some really good house guests, and were you afraid when you got in the house that they would say, oh, by the way, we have, like in season 18 and 19, surprise entrances from Davon and Nicole from Big Brother 16, and not to mention Paul? Were you worried that you were going to be thrown into a curveball like that?
Oh, yeah, I was really worried about that, and it seems for the past few seasons we've had some of these day one evictions, Steve and Glenn, that both went home. I guess not first day, but I know Glenn went home first day, and Cameron went home first day, I guess, as well. So yeah, I went in worried that my time in the house would be limited. I'd heard rumors before I went in the house that there was talk about returning couples coming back in, and I really didn't want to have to be coming in trying to compete against veterans, and especially couples. Now, as it turns out, we had quite a few couples in our house that I had to compete with anyway. But yeah, I was worried about the twist, having seen so many seasons, and especially being the old guy and knowing that I came in probably with a little bit more of a target on my back because of that. I had told a lot of people during my early interviews before I went in the house that I really thought the first 2 weeks were critical for me, that I needed that first 14, 15 days to kind of develop some relationships. But before that, I was really worried that I could be pitched out very early from that house.
Alrighty, so you had a little bit of a nightmare because you were nominated for banishment and nominated for Can't Come Back, but however, you won both of them.
Hey, I wasn't going to let them boot me out of that house easily. I wanted to know that when I went out, it was going to be knowing that I gave it everything I had, and fortunately, the deck was lined up for me, and I was able to fight my way back in both times.
Awesome. So I got to say, of all the alliances that were all the alliances in that season, you guys had the closest when it came to reaching the finale. The Fellowship. I'm talking about the Fellowship of Zing. It's a fan favorite alliance, and it was you and Nicole and of course Ovi. So when did this alliance form?
I think it was after Ovi had been evicted, but was still in the house because of Can't Come Back. And I believe it was probably the week that Kimmy ended up getting booted. And it's funny because I went into that house really on day 1 or 2 wanting to work very tightly with Ovi. He was the person that I thought we could work very well together. And then Ovi had developed a relationship with Nicole as well. And we were sitting in the archery room and just trying to talk about going forward, how we could watch out for each other. Nicole and I both telling Ovi that we wanted to see if we couldn't get him back into the house. And it just seems like we were all underdogs. No one was giving us much credit that we could do anything at all. And yet we all seem to have slightly different connections with the big alliance and with other people. And as we started comparing notes, it just seems like a natural. We came together. I think we trusted each other. We were all in similar situations, and it didn't take long. I feel like it was just maybe a 5-10 minute conversation. And at the end, we said, let's make this a formal alliance. And we all shook hands and walked away and came up with the name a little bit later. And I got to say, forming that alliance, I am happy that we did it. I've never regretted it. I'm happy it went as far as it did. I wish there was a way that Obi could have stayed a little bit longer, because the three of us could have had a lot of fun in that house for a lot longer period of time. But I love those two people, and am so happy that we all work together on this game.
Hopefully there'll be another chance for all three of you, and I'll get that back to later. But however, we got to talk. You mentioned notes earlier, so we got to talk about one of your season's signature elements, which were Cliff Notes. And why did you decide to put that into that? And what was your reaction when you found out that it was exposed?
Yeah, it's so funny that took off, because I really wasn't doing it thinking it was going to be this huge anything. But I have been a fan for a long time, and I have watched the live feeds for the last few years. And I've always appreciated when a person would talk out loud and try to explain their strategy or talk to the cameras. I've always in the past tried to place myself in the shoes of the person inside the house and tried to imagine what's going on. And so it dawned on me that talking to the cameras, I could give a shout out to the fans and let them know how much I appreciate it. Let them know that I've been a fan, that I'm just a fan who happened to get in the house, that I'm just like everyone watching the live feeds, just lucky enough to be in there. And I felt like it was just an opportunity to explain and help people watching the live feeds figure out just a little bit more about what was going on in the house. So part of it is just my love of Big Brother and my way of giving back to all the entertainment I've had over the years watching those live feeds. The other part of it, I've got to say, is I was realizing I was getting up earlier than a lot of the other house guests, grabbing some coffees, eating a little breakfast and all. And as I'd walk around, I'd realize the cameras were following me around because I was typically the only person that was up. And so it dawned on me that was one time I could talk to my family, because I knew my wife and kids were watching those live feeds. It was the one time I could talk to my family and absolutely know that they were watching and that they could see what was going on. So it was my way of staying sane in that house, of communicating with my wife and kids and just saying, hey, I'm okay. And as you saw, it's also my chance just to ramble a little bit and talk about things that were going on day to day in my life and things I was missing outside the house and just my general feelings and attitudes from day to day. So that's why I did it. As far as being overheard, when Nicole told me that Christy had overheard me, my jaw just dropped. I thought, well, that's it. I screwed it up. My wife always said I kind of don't have much of a whisper voice, and sure enough, I've proven her right here in the first few weeks. And I felt horrible that my game was gone, but I also was worried that I had damaged Nicole's game and Ovi's as well, because I had been overheard talking about the alliance, and so it was definitely one of those moments where I thought, well, I got to do damage control at this point. And the one thing that worked out for me is I think the only person that maybe has a bigger mouth than I do in that house is Christy. She went and blabbed to everyone else what she had overheard way too quickly. I think she could have had a whole lot more leverage against me if she had just waited. One, because it was early enough in the game, I wasn't talking about that much strategy at that point in time. I did talk about that I recognized that these four couples or duos had come together. But beyond that, I didn't really say a whole lot that was too harmful. If she had listened in a lot longer, more days, she could have had a whole lot more on me and probably used that to her advantage a lot better. But the fact that she immediately went and told everyone else kind of got rid of a lot of the power that she could have had. And I don't know how much has been seen, but I think the next day, Jackson, having known that I was in there doing this, he actually went in there and listened to me talk as well. And that part worked to my advantage, because he actually heard me saying that I wanted to work with him, and I don't remember if I said Holly or not, but that I trusted Jackson. I really wanted to work with him, and I hope that he felt the same way. So from that point till through much of the rest of the season, I think he felt more comfortable that I truly was wanting to continue to work with him, and it wasn't just a scam or a ruse or anything else. So I think that may have made me a little bit tighter with Jackson, even though it did certainly cause some issues and potentially threaten my game. I know I had to sit there in the boat room one night with Sis and explain to her that, no, I'm not targeting you and Jack. I never said that. If Christy's saying that, then she misheard. And Sis brought Christy in, and we clarified that, no, it was strictly talking about the couples, and that's it. And so I did what I could, and I recovered from it. But, yeah, my big mouth almost cost me early in the game.
Especially during your HOH week as well. She could have easily used that as a blackmail.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that she could have done. But once she told everyone, and there's nothing that you say in that house that you can't assume will eventually get back to everyone else. And sure enough, it got back to me, and that gave me the time and the opportunity to kind of smooth things out and make sure that people – and I got to say, to some degree, once that happened, I changed my strategy a little bit and told Tommy and Christy and several people and said, look, here's my strategy. Y'all heard me talking. I'm not targeting anyone. I'm just sitting here. I'm trying to survive. I'm not trying to do anything except make it one more week at a time. And so I think to some degree I spent a lot of time afterwards kind of saying, hey, I'm an open book. Here's what I'm about. Y'all don't have to worry about me as much as you do others. And I think that carried some weight as well going forward.
Absolutely. And you were part of several major moments, including when you heard that the 6 shooters breaking up, because I was watching some of the house gets back and seeing Jessica's shock-faced and Nick, and then you pulling in Nicole. So what was that moment like on day 44?
Oh, that was amazing.